You almost have to give Michael Rappaport some real credit, man. I mean, the guy, he's freakishly Trump deranged, right? But he's coming around, and you got to give him credit. I don't know if it's so much credit to him, or maybe the credit is due to Joe Biden for being such an abject, horrific failure that even Trump deranged crazy people like Michael Rappaport might actually find a way to vote for Donald Trump. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. Michael Rappaport, apparently he started a podcast. This is actually pretty good, man. His first guest was really, really awesome. His first guest was Larry Elder, a guy that, people with working brains know is a very bright, very well-spoken, very thoughtful guy. And the people without working brains, the deranged people, they know him as the black face of white supremacy. That's what they called him when he ran for governor against Gavin Newsom. So again, you have to give Rappaport some credit. Most liberals are not going to invite Larry Elder on to discuss anything. And so this is going to be good. I promise you this is going to be good.
The number one domestic issue facing America by far is the epidemic of fatherlessness.
Based on what?
70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. 25% of white kids now enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. And the stats are clear. If you're raised without a father, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail.
Why is that a controversial statement? And I know you...
Name somebody who's mentioned it.
Well, your guy Ramaswamy.
Where do you think he got it?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I've seen him many times in Iowa, many times in New Hampshire. He wasn't saying any of this until I started saying it.
So he stole your style?
Verbatim. He said epidemic of fatherlessness, which is what
Ramaswamy stole your style?
Ramaswamy stole my line. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Are you pissed off about that?
No, I'm happy that we're talking about it. I've talked about the epidemic of fatherlessness. And I've not heard any GOP leader say this. I heard Barack Obama once say it. He even cited the same stats I gave you. And then Jesse Jackson told him he was talking down to black people, and he stopped saying it.
Why is that considered talk? Because I've heard you talk about it, and I agree with that. And I've heard you on Charlemagne, and I've heard you on the other one, Van Latham, and the girl. And it seems like when you bring this up to some people, and I don't like to generalize, when you bring this up to some people, when you bring this up to some black people, it's like you're smacking them in the face.
Right.
It's so offensive
to them,
as opposed to being something that like collectively should be looked at and be solved. And I don't understand that. I do.
I don't either. I think it's a number of things. I think it is perceived as somehow dissing the black females who are courageously raising these men and boys by themselves. I think that they don't want to acknowledge it because they would rather focus on what they consider to be systemic racism, and they feel this is sort of blaming the victim, and it's not. As you point out, you saw my first documentary. I mentioned in 1940, 87% of blacks lived under poverty. 1960, 20 years later, that number had fallen to 47%. 40-point drop in 20 years, the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion in history for black America. Even though 1940 still had the KKK, you still had Jim Crow, you didn't have Brown versus Board of Education yet. None of that stuff happened because it was rare for a black kid to be raised without a father in the home. Also, an embracement of Judeo-Christian values, a belief in entrepreneurship. Fast forward, Uncle Tom, too, talks about what happened to the civil rights movement after it had gone from demanding equal rights to demanding equal results, and people like Black Lives Matter began to lead the charge. On their website, they attack the nuclear family. The co-founders are trained Marxists. Marx was an atheist who didn't believe in God and didn't believe in entrepreneurship. So everything that made black people survive and thrive and grow after slavery is now under attack.
And this is exactly why the left hates Larry Elder and basically everyone like him. I mean, everyone that represents anything even in the same zip code as a guy like Larry Elder, they hate him. They hate him because they can't possibly argue with him. He's thoughtful, he's respectful, and every single thing he delivers, he backs up with fact after fact after fact. I mean, the man brings the receipts, right? And here's the thing. I mean, this particular topic, he deserves a lot of credit for even having these conversations. But the amazing thing to me, he's basically the only one. He's almost the only one really having these conversations. No one from either side or from any race, for whatever reason, is even willing to have this conversation. I think a lot of it is fear. I mean, they must be afraid. These are the kind of facts and this is the kind of topic that really will drive the left to destroy you. I mean, primarily because, I mean, it's no secret, destroying the nuclear family is way, way high up on their list in their, Cloward Piven-like destruction fantasy that they have for the West. And I mean, it's easy to see why. I mean, fatherlessness really is, it's the root of so many of the world's problems, man. Everything from addiction to crime to poverty, problems that cultural Marxists, they do not want to solve. I mean, that's why, again, I mean, you have to give Rappaport some credit. I mean, the guy is coming around. He's not the average leftist crazy person, anymore, at least. I mean, he's perfectly willing to have this conversation, and you have to appreciate that.
Me, why I named this show Pick a Side. I know you said you had a show, one of your many radio shows called Pick a Side. For me, the lack of gray area is really the big problem in politics. And I'm no expert of politics, but the fact that it's the LA Dodgers, the New York Yankees. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And
I've never seen it this polarized.
You know who did it? You know who did it?
I know.
You know who did it, Larry.
I know.
Before I say it,
I know what you're going to say.
You say it. You say who?
But you're wrong.
No. Who made it this polarizing? Say it, Larry, please. Say who made it this polarizing. I'm begging you to say it. I am begging you to say it. I am begging you to say the guy who made it this polarizing.
And just when I was giving him credit, man, for almost seeming normal, here he comes, man. TDS can be suppressed. I mean, with the right medication, there's therapeutics that are available, but it's apparently it's incurable. And in a lot of cases, TDS is terminal for sure. But I mean, just think about how these people think. They really do believe that Donald Trump is single-handedly responsible for making politics as polarized as they are today. And just think about the math on that, man. It's basically, it's the same thing as victim blaming. I mean, these people hate Donald Trump so much. He drives them so crazy that they actually feel justified in blaming him for their own hate. I mean, there's no other way to put it. That is victim blaming, and it's completely insane. I mean, everything they say, everything they believe about the guy is entirely untrue, whether it's the very fine people thing or bloodbath or dictator for a day, whatever it is, it's all pure fantasy. And they blame him for the fact that they're even having those fantasies. I mean, the people who think boys should play in women's sports blame us for not liking their ideas instead of looking inward at their own purely insane ideas. And I mean, it's just, these are not serious people. And I'm going to keep going, guys, but if you're enjoying this content, please make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. It really does go a long way to helping us reach more people.
I think that Donald Trump angered a lot of people, including the media. I'll tell you why.
He made it this polarizing. He took it to like steroid Barry Bonds level.
They should look in the mirror. When Donald Trump first decided to run, he was on CNN, he was on MSNBC, hee-haw, which is what I call it, all the time. Why? They thought of him as a joke, but every time he was there, the numbers went up. So he starts picking off these candidates one after another, and they realize, holy bleep, I did it again. We created a monster. And so they went after him with a ferocity that I've never seen before because they know they helped to create him. Donald Trump was called a Nazi. There's a guy
I don't like anyone using that term Nazi.
As well you shouldn't. As well, nobody should.
You got to earn that term.
Nobody should. Donald Trump was called a
That's another thing I'll actually give Rappaport some credit on, man. He is completely and fully disgusted by his political allies rallying in the streets for Hamas and chanting anti-Semitic crazy stuff. I mean, it's crazy to watch. I mean, he's right there, man. He is right there. He's almost one of us, man. I mean, his own neighborhood, he's watching his own neighborhood in New York just getting completely destroyed by crime. He's watched all the crazy leftist activists doing all the crazy leftist activism in his own city. He knows that Joe Biden is trash, but he just can't shake the TDS, man. I'm telling you, man. I mean, they can hide it, they can suppress it, but they cannot cure it, man. These people have had their brains so thoroughly broken that they can't cure it. I mean, this next clip, this is a good one, man. I've shown this before, but Larry lays it out, man, just about as perfectly as it can possibly be laid out.
As far as making it polarizing and who's made it, taking it to another level, Trump, and you're a chill dude, you're a well-spoken dude. When I think of a conservative person who presents himself like a conservative, you are absolutely somebody I would say, who presents himself that way. Trump got elected iconically at his debates, why he became the people's champ, lying Ted Cruz, this one's names, that one names. That seems so opposite to the type of behavior that you represent from yourself. Why and how can you support a guy who also, you know, I also heard you say that when it comes to debates, you're not at the debates. You don't like everybody shooting each other down, and then because it's not good for the party, and you don't like that, you know, people like Gavin Newsom, well, then again, use it against you. But Trump got elected not shooting, fucking publicly lynching, giving nicknames, sexualized hands, all the bullshit that he did. And I know you don't curse. How can you support this guy?
I'm watching the Golf Channel. I'm not a golfer, but
give it to me straight. Don't give me about the golf. You're gonna
I'm watching the Golf Channel.
Don't Tiger Woods me here like a Jack Nicholson me.
And I love the sport, although I don't play it.
Okay.
And
I'm following you. You're not gonna
stay with me. This is going to make a lot of sense to you. These two professional golfers were being interviewed, and the host said, "What makes a good golfer?" And one of them went through this beautiful, elaborate description of what makes a good golfer: where you put your hands, where your shoulders are, where your legs are, where your eyes are. And the other one went like this. I look to see where the ball lands. I like where the ball lands on immigration, on abortion, on judges, on taxes, on losing the regulations, on reversing the war against oil and gas, on standing up to China. That's what I like. The rest of it is white noise, pardon the expression.
But is it white noise, Larry?
To me it is.
All right, to you it is.
Look at the BS Joe Biden does.
I want to stay. We'll get to Joe. We'll get to smoking Joe Biden. We'll get to cadaver Joe Biden. I'm not one of these people. I vote for Larry. I am not one of these people. And the only time that people pay attention to me with politics is when I go at Trump. I go at all of them. All of them.
Well, we need to do it now.
But let's stay on your guy Trump.
This is about Trump.
Okay.
Obama. I'm in Boston 2000.
This is about Trump, Obama.
I will connect the dots.
Okay, connect them good. The golf was good.
The beautiful thing about the podcast is I get time to develop a thought.
100%.
Again, man, I mean, if you're going to get so upset at whoever it is that, you know, made things so polarized, so incredibly polarizing, how could you be mad at Trump? I mean, honestly, how could you be mad at any one politician, right? If we're capable of being objective and honest, we can all agree. Everyone can agree that the people that are really, really, truly responsible for the polarization that we have, it has to be the media. I mean, the only reason that there are people walking around that are dumb enough to believe that Donald Trump is a Russian agent, or that Donald Trump planned an insurrection, or that he stole nuclear secrets to sell to his strongman dictator friends, the only reason any adult human could possibly believe something so stupid and so easily debunked is because they trust a dishonest media. I mean, none of this is Donald Trump's fault. He's the subject. He's not the author. And the only reason that they hate him, the media, I mean, and the powerful, is because he really is a threat to their power. The guy, he just will not go away. He just will not heal. He will not give in. And I think both of these guys, they actually get that.
Bit about Obama.
I'm in Boston 2004. And this guy comes up, funny guy, skinny guy with funny little ears named Barack Obama. And he's introducing John Kerry. And he says, "There's no blue America. There's no red America. There's just one United States of America." Everybody goes nuts. "There's no black America. There's no white America. There's just one America." Everybody goes nuts. I turned to my producer and I said, "This guy's not saying anything. It's just fancy, pretty rhetoric. Anybody can give that speech, but he gave it well. He's probably going to run for president someday." Obama announces president, and he's on 60 Minutes with Steve Croft. And Steve Croft says, and he wasn't the front runner yet, he's catching up to Hillary, that's why they had him on. And Steve Croft says, "Senator, if you don't win, will it be because of racism?" I'm at home by myself. I said, let's see how this man answers the question. Is he going to give a victocrat answer? That's a word I coined. I get 10% if you use it, victocrat.
What does it mean?
Somebody that blames everybody else for their problems.
Okay.
Professional victim, victocrat.
Victocrat. I like that word.
Thank you. Booyah. 10%. Write that down. Elder 10%.
That's going to be the name of my next book.
Acknowledge it. We got
Victocrat by Michael Rappaport. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is he going to give a victocrat answer the way Sharpton would, who ran for president and then blamed it on racism, and Jesse Jackson ran twice and blamed his loss on racism, or is he going to tell the truth? And to his credit, he said, no. If I don't win, it will be because I have failed to articulate a vision that the American people can embrace. I went, wow. Senator Obama at a black church is talking about how much racism there is in America. This is when he's running. And he said, the Moses generation, referring to Martin Luther King, has gotten us 90% of the way there. My generation, he said, the Joshua generation, has to get us an additional 10%. Now, there was a Fox News poll, 2002, 8% of Americans believe it is possible that Elvis is still alive. So in that 10%, you got that 8%. So frankly, we're about as good as you can get, just about. And I like the number.
Some people believe that JFK Jr. is still alive. And they're very prominent at your guys' rallies.
And I like the number that he gave. We're 90% of the way there. When he walked into the Oval Office the third week of January 2009, I know this is a long way of answering your question, he was at 70% approval.
Barack.
Yeah.
Yes.
He got elected with 53%. How do you get to 70% when you haven't done anything? The answer is a bunch of people who still don't want their taxes raised, as he promised to do, who don't want Obamacare, as he promised to do, said at the very least, he will bring us together racially. So both blacks and whites thought that race relations would improve. When he left, both blacks and whites thought race relations got worse. Why? 8 years. The Cambridge police acted stupidly. If I had a son, he looked like Trayvon. Racism is in our DNA. He embraced Black Lives Matter, had Al Sharpton in the White House over 70 times. He had an AG, Attorney General Eric Holder, who said voter ID was pernicious racism. He played the race card over and over and over to the point where here in New York, his last term, officers Liu and Ramos were shot sitting in their car by a black guy who was pissed off because of the Black Lives Matter narrative that the police were engaging in systemic racism against black people. The stats, by the way, do not show that whatsoever. Baton Rouge, three officers killed execution style by another black man. He also told on social media, told friends, he did it because of systemic racism by the police. 5 officers killed execution style in Dallas. Another different black guy. 3 different black men.
These are lunatics, though.
All motivated by the same rhetoric.
Right.
That Obama embraced. The Black Lives Matter BS that Obama embraced. My point is, Obama made things worse racially, not better, worse. He did the opposite of what American people thought he was going to do when they hired him. So while Donald Trump gets a whole lot of grief for stuff he said, Obama gets nothing because he did well-crafted sentences, he went to Harvard, he spoke beautifully, but he had the same incendiary rhetoric that you accused Donald Trump of having, except you didn't think it was going to come from him.
You know, I haven't actually heard it articulated like that in a really long time, man. But how spot on was that? And it's all true. I mean, Barack Obama, he really was the epitome of a wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, everything the man touched got worse. I mean, he delivered on none of his promises. I mean, he delivered as Joe Biden, for one. I mean, but just like Joe Biden, you know, he was so bad and so systemically damaging to the country that there's no way that it was just bad policy and bad luck. I mean, he did it on purpose. He had to have done it on purpose. And just look what he did. I mean, he built the cages that Trump got blamed for. He committed the war crimes that Trump gets accused of. I mean, he built the violent mobs that Trump got blamed for. And Obama, the guy was the ultimate race hustler. And the amazing thing is the Obama faithful, the people that still live and breathe and love everything Obama, they still have no idea about any of that. And that's remarkable stuff when you really, really break that down. That's a good topic. And I'm impressed with this podcast, man. Rappaport is not afraid of any topic, it seems. He's even going to ask Larry about abortion. And I think he might even get a little surprised again.
President.
What is your stance on abortion? Give me your take on abortion.
Abortion is wrong.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
Come on, Larry.
Wrong.
How could you say that fatherlessness is such an issue, but abortion is wrong? If a teenager gets somebody pregnant, I want to hear you. Teenager gets somebody pregnant, they don't want to have a baby.
Adoption.
Come on, man.
Adoption.
Or God forbid somebody is.
35 couples for every 1 kid available to be adopted.
God forbid somebody is and impregnated.
Can't get pregnant.
God forbid somebody's or impregnated. Someone in your world, someone in a friend's world, a family member. They should have that baby. That's disgusting, man.
The baby should be killed? That's disgusting.
This is not a baby. 2 months, 3 months?
It's still an innocent life. And there are, it'd be one thing if the pro-life side was not talking the talk and walking the walk, but there are thousands of pregnancy centers, sometimes called crisis centers. There are resources, adoption resources, money for housing, money
How
for...
could you give birth to a baby that if you're that you should not have to give birth to a baby if you're come on, man. How could you give birth if you're and then you have to give birth to it and put it up for adoption?
It's horrible. It's an awful thing, but I still believe that it's an innocent life.
Can I ask you a personal question? Have you ever participated in adoption? I mean, have you ever participated in abortion?
No.
I just think that we as men and in general, women should have the right, especially, I think there should be limitations and rules and regulations.
I don't believe that there should be a federal law one way or the other. I'm not in favor of what Lindsey Graham wanted to do. I've always argued that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided. It should be a matter state by state. I'm in California. California is a deep blue state. When I ran for governor, the so-called Texas fetal heartbeat bill came up, and I was asked about that. And I said, I'm in California. What's going to happen with abortion in California? We have supermajorities of Democrats in the Senate and in the Assembly, as I point out in my book. This is a pro-abortion state. There'll be no bill on my desk, put on my desk for me to sign. There were a couple of measures in the last few years in California for parental notifications and for waiting limits, and I voted for them, and they were overwhelmingly defeated. So I live in a blue state.
Okay.
And we live in a federalist society, and issues like abortion, doctor-assisted suicide, drugs, legalization, all these should be state-by-state issues, and abortion should be one as well.
My final question, I could continue talking to me, but you got to go. Based on everything you know, all your experience, all your thoughts, all your data, all your references, who do you predict will be the president in 2024?
Donald Trump.
Wow.
Donald Trump's going to get the nomination, very likely. And it isn't because Donald Trump is so popular, it's because Joe Biden is so unpopular. 2/3 of people believe that our economy is going in the wrong direction. Only now are people really realizing how bad the borders are. People paying 40% more for gasoline. They care about the economy. And it's going to come down to the economy. And if RFK Jr. gets in, he's going to siphon even more votes away from the Democratic Party.
He ain't getting in, man. The RFK Jr. ain't getting anywhere, man. No disrespect, and I know he's got some kind of health issue, but you can't be president if you can't talk. He drones on. He's like
reportedly he may run as an independent.
He ain't getting in. And if you have a better chance of RFK.
And if he does, he'll suck enough votes away from Joe Biden to make it even easier for Donald Trump to win.
Right. Do you think he's a plan?
And I thought you were going to ask me who's going to be on the other side. This, to me, is an even more interesting question.
What do you mean?
Is Biden going to be the nominee? If Biden cannot fog up a mirror, I believe it's going to be Kamala Harris for all the reasons I mentioned. They painted themselves into a corner now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if he runs against Kamala Harris, she's even less popular than Joe.
Yeah, I mean, hell of a show, man. You rarely see something like this these days where both sides are respectful, where both sides, let each other get their points out. So you don't see that, which probably means it's going to be an epic failure. No one's going to watch. But if they do watch, I mean, credit to Michael Rappaport for sure. I mean, the guy's growing. I mean, he's coming around. But there is a couple plays. I mean, he is a prototypical liberal in a lot of ways. Obviously, his blind love and blind adoration for Barack Obama. But also a few of his arguments, the abortion thing, the left really does want to ignore the millions and millions and millions of abortions that there really are in a lot of ways avoidable, right? And they want to fearmonger on the extremes. That's where they live. They live in the extremes. But other than that, man, pretty good. I really do think that Rappaport is coming around. There might actually still be hope for this guy. And if there's hope for him with the level of TDS he's got, there's hope for anybody. But that's just my take, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, guys, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.